Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live reaction to the press conference that's just happened at Auchenhowie as Phillipe Clement has spoken to the media ahead of this weekend's League Cup tie against St Johnstone. I've got to admit, I'd actually forgotten the press conference was happening today. But then again, stupid me, I should have realised, shouldn't I? Because let's face it, we always have a presser before a game. So yeah, all good. Apparently, obviously, Phillipe Clement spoke to the media. It was John Souttar up first. But it was Clement, obviously, that presser who carried the majority of interest from the fans and will go on to carry the majority of interest from the fans. You know, the press conferences these days are getting a little bit predictable. They're getting a little bit kind of, we kind of know what's coming down. We kind of know it's the same old stuff. It's injuries. We will be ready. We're getting better. We're improving. Blah, blah, blah. No big announcement in the podcast, in the presser itself, unless obviously the big announcement was as regarding Ridvan's injury. But no, certainly no massive, huge news from Phillipe Clement today. No news of any signings. No news of anybody going out of the club. Although apparently this was not what Phillipe Clement said, but this has come out in the past sort of few hours. The reports earlier that Rabbi Matondo was on his way to Leeds have now been denied. Apparently Leeds do not have any interest in signing Rabbi Matondo. He will be remaining at Rangers unless, of course, a suitable bid comes in between now and the end of the window on the 30th of August. So, yeah, no bids for Rabbi at this stage, guys. So obviously, please don't be disappointed about that one. Okay, so what did Phillipe Clement have to say to the media today in response, obviously, to the fan media questions and the written media questions that he was posed during this presser? He spoke a little bit about, obviously, the Kiev game on Tuesday night and how the players were post that game. Phillipe said the players were really down after the game, but this is part of the story in football. You will have moments like this. It was clear to everyone all over the world about the red card that changed the game. That is done and is finished, and now it is my responsibility, along with the players, to go and win the next match. Look, I agree to some extent with what the manager says. I really do. Look, yes, to some degree he's right. The red card obviously did have a massive influence on this game. Of course it did. It would not have that massive influence on the game. Of course it wouldn't. But at the end of the day, it's not the be all and end all. I don't think that was the sole reason that we lost this game. I don't really think that was the sole reason we obviously lost the game. I think the reason we lost the game was a good few reasons. It wasn't just a red card, and I think the red card has somewhat been used as an escape clause by the manager, by the club, and by some fans as well. I think if you look at the real reasons we lost that game, we didn't take our chances. Our forward play was exceptionally poor. There was no cutting edge. We lacked clinicalness in front of goal, whatever the word is I'm looking for there. Our defence was pretty shit. Butland could have been a bit better, at least on one of the goals. Davies could have closed down better on the first goal. I think, the reason we lost the game was not just the red card. Yes, the red card played a huge part in that, but, that game was not just those 40-odd minutes after that red card. That game, that tie was the first leg, and was the second, was the start of the second leg, was the first half. This is a game that we could have easily, obviously gone on to win regardless of that red card. So yes, whilst that red card did have an influence, I don't think it is solely down to that red card. It changed the game. Yes, it did change the game to some extent, but I would argue that Rangers actually played better when they were down to 10 men than they did when they had 11 men. So I don't think Clement's 100% correct in what he asserts there. I don't think the red card is the sole reason we lost the game. Alexander says, "Hi, Owen, for fuck's sake, I'm gutted. I thought Robbie was going for Rangers to get a bit of money." JM says it's going to be a long season. Scott says, "Too good to be true regarding Matondo. He'll be here in September." I think he will be. Scott, I can't see him going anywhere. We haven't got the passing game in the middle. We can't get the ball to number 9. The number 9 can't control the ball. Apart from that, it's down to the ref. Yeah, Tunnock, I think you're spot on, mate. I mean, other than Connor Barron, I thought the midfield was very poor in chance creation. And I thought, the one thing that really let us down on Tuesday was the fact that Cyril Dessers could not hold the ball up. I mean, I read some hilarious comments the other day on Facebook saying Dessers' hold-up play was excellent. Well, no, Dessers' hold-up play wasn't excellent. It was absolutely shite. Hence why when we were down to 10 men, we could not get out. So, I think, Dessers was absolutely shite on Tuesday. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. Yes, he did have a lack of service, but he was still exceptionally shite. Clement went on to say in the press, he said, our duty is to win football games. Is it really? Win duels, show our fans what they want to see. That is our job. I know the fans will follow us if we do this. It is important to stick together and get the best results while we are not at Ibrox. Everyone is working overtime to get us back to Ibrox. Talk about stating the obvious. I mean, yes, it is your duty to win football games because that's what you are paid to do, Phillipe, and that's what the players are paid to do, is to go out there and win a football match. It's reasonably quite simple. Score more goals than the opposition, don't let any goals in, and you probably do win the game. It's a bit of a nondescript throwaway remark. I think it's just, again, batting away. He's not going to come 100% clear on things. He's not going to say what he probably is thinking truly in his mind. He's not going to say what he wants to say. And I think the fans aren't going to hear what they want to hear to some extent, because that's just not possible. I mean, what do we honestly expect? Do we expect Phillipe Clement to come out and say, team shit, I've got to sell half the team, they're all crap, No, because he doesn't want to throw the players under the bus. That will have a negative reaction. Obviously, it will all kick off from there. So that can't be done. So, I mean, we all know that it's that is the job, isn't it? Dado Per says Blue Boot says Matondo and Lawrence and Tav need to be moved on. I've got to say I do agree with that one. Darren Phillipson says the issue with moving on players won't be the lack of clubs interested. It'll be the level of clubs interested who can't or won't justify the wages they demand. Wages we foolishly agreed to pay them. Darren, I think that's absolutely spot on. As I've said on a number of videos, the issue you've got there is when you're paying Tavernier 30 grand a week, when you're paying Todd Cantwell 25 grand a week, when you're paying Cyril Dessers 27 grand a week, Ben Davis 27 grand a week. Getting clubs interested in actually buying the players and paying their wages is a different thing. And look, I don't blame Ben Davis or Cyril Dessers or James Tavernier for a minute. If I'm earning 30 grand or 27 grand a week and someone comes in and offers to pay me less than that or half of that, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to go somewhere I've got to take a 10 grand pay cut or a 13 grand pay cut. I mean, that's just not going to happen. And if you look at the level of clubs that are going to be interested in Cantwell, in Davis, in Tavernier, like English Championship clubs, they're not going to pay 27 grand a week, 30 grand a week. It's even with the fact the EFL Championship is quite flush with cash at the moment, you're not going to get that for players. CGM says press conferences are just depressing these days. Never anything positive comes out of them. I think a lot of it, CGM, is just that he can't say perhaps what he wants to say. We won't hear what we want to hear. And it just is all a bit samey these days, I think. Get right, Davis and others who are useless out the door. Congratulations to DL2, has been a member for 7 months. Remember, you can become a member for as little as 99 pence. You can also give a super chat or a super sticker if you want to support the channel. What else did he say today? He said, I hope for football games, always there are two sets of fans. It's always better for the product and the players. For us, we adapt and control the things we can control. Obviously, that was in response to a question as regards the tickets for the Old Firm game. Obviously, it was announced this morning that it has been agreed now between the SPL, Rangers and Celtic. There will be no away fans at the first 2 Old Firm games of the season. Obviously, the first one is the 1st of September at Parkhead. The second one was as regards to the obviously to the post January games. Apparently, the last 2 Old Firm games, the suggestion is that it will be 5% of the tickets will be given to both teams away fans wise, as long as certain guarantees are made as regards security and certain work is undertaken at both stadiums. That's what came out of the SPL news statement this morning. Obviously, Phillipe Clement, Phillipe is right at the end of the day. We do need a situation where we do need 2 sets of fans at a game. Absolutely. 100%. Phillipe McRobert says here in the live chat, he says, we must start playing better against St Johnstone tomorrow so we can win and hopefully get to the final and the cup like we did last season. I mean, yeah, obviously it is very important to try and retain the trophy we've won. Obviously, any silverware we can win will help us stay ahead of that lot. CGM says, was he asked about Danilo? How is his limp? We are going to get on to fitness of players. He was questioned on that. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. CGM, he does walk like that, mate, from Feyenoord and stuff, came up and it's exactly basically the same. I suppose that's good news that if that is his natural walk, or it's a bit of a, I don't know, perhaps it's a bit of a gangster walk, maybe, I don't know, perhaps he's got a bit of a gangster swagger about him. Not that a gangster swagger, I just like a twat. Cifuentes, how does the loan deal work? Does the loan club have to pay the transfer money at the end of the season? I'm so confused with it. So, Alexander, in terms of the Cifuentes deal, getting away from the presser for a minute, I'll get back to the press conference in a moment. It is a loan with an option to buy. So Cifuentes has gone to Greece on loan. Reportedly, we are paying his wages still, which is a joke. At the end of the loan, at the end of this season, if Aris want to buy him, then they have an option there, which will be an agreed price, which is thought to be somewhere between 4 and 4.5 million. But we don't know. Obviously, a lot depends on Sifu's performance. If Sifu's performance is poor, as it has been on his previous loan at Cruzeiro, I can strongly suggest he will be returned to Rangers. If it is not poor, then hopefully they will pay the money for him. CGM55 says, if you walk like that at his age, I would be seeing someone about it. Mate, CGM, he's just got the gangster swagger, bro. He's got the gangster swagger, bro, innit? What else did he ask? He was asked obviously about Václav Černý and starting Václav Černý, obviously in light of the medical staff intervening in team picking. I do think this is a very, very, very slippery slope, allowing doctors to pick the team rather than the manager. He said, you've seen already the impact Černý has had. He will improve along with Robin with more time training with the squad, which, you know, is just obvious. Yes, they will both. We might as well take back now. Lol. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, the more time any player gets to settle in and play with his teammates and Černý on Saturday, I really do. You know, I think the more game time you can get him, the fitness work you can do with him, the more match minutes you get into his legs, the better for Rangers and the better for Černý. So, look, I really hope that Černý does get a run out. I hope proper plays as well, at least some of Saturday's game. I mean, the more we can put these new signings in, the more we can get them settled into the system, settled into the game, settled into the style of football, settled into Scottish football, the better. You know, yes, in an ideal world, you would be wanting to rest more of your first teamers coming out of, you know, the Champions League tie on Tuesday. And obviously, with this just being a League Cup tie on Saturday, sorry. You'd want to rest people, but I think, you know, with some of the new signings, we do need to see more minutes from them. We do need to see them participating more. So for me, you know, Černý hopefully will play some part. Okay, let's have a look. What's the next one? So we've got here, he says, building a new squad takes time to build the connections between players. I see people working really hard in the building every day. I see the potential and the evolution. Do we have things to improve? For sure. Everyone knows this. We will continue to improve. I mean, I may just be reading between the lines here, and I may be kind of, you know, sort of, I don't know, implying stuff from this, but that doesn't sound a lot like there's a lot of new players coming in, if I'm being honest with you. That sounds a lot like I'm working with what I've got to improve what I've got. And, you know, the more connections we built up, the more we, you know, get the players to work together, the better they will become. I mean, I can see that. I can see how players could, you know, develop and improve by working together. I can see how, you know, the more time people get together, working together, the working relationships build up and the working relationships do improve. But, you know, for me, building a new squad takes time to build connections between players. To me, that sounds a lot like I'm not actually bringing anybody else in. This is it now. You know, that, I mean, I might be talking absolute rubbish. I may be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 7. But, you know, for me, that comment, to build a new squad takes time to build the connections between players. I see working really hard in this building every day. I see the potential and the evolution. Do we have things to improve? For sure. Everyone knows this, and we will continue to improve. like I said, a lot of that for me is saying that that I've got to stick with the players that I've got. I've got to work with the players that I've got. I think post Champions League, I think a lot of what the transfer strategy was for the rest of this transfer window was solely dependent on getting into the Champions League and getting the Champions League money. So I do feel to some extent that there is a kind of, situation where there won't be a fantastic amount of new players coming through the doors at Ibrox. That's what I kind of take from that statement there. As for that statement there, there is such a saying, Phil, in England and in Scotland and in Wales and in Ireland, you cannot polish a turd. I think, some of the players are genuinely not good enough and they have reached, I think, a peak. I mean, the thing is, for me, the likes of Cyril Dessers, the likes of James Tavernier, Tom Lawrence, realistically, are not going to get any better. They're not going to suddenly develop. They're not going to suddenly, become better players overnight, because at the end of the day, when they're at the age they are, they don't improve. That's just natural science. At the end of the day, that players, once they get over 30, don't improve. They don't kick on. They don't become better players. In fact, they plateau, and eventually then they get worse because they lose a step of pace. They lose a step of physicality, they lose ability of physicality, and they lose it a little bit. And that's just nature. There's nothing you can do about that. But it is worrying, that comment. That is a little worrying, that comment, if we kind of read between them. Okay, so Scott says in the live chat, what rebuild? Don't see it. Scott here says in the live chat, we can't come too frustrated conclusions. Hopefully we'll get a few in, but if you're right, it will be a long season. If Robbie Fraser doesn't start tomorrow, then I would call Clement out in his comments about giving youth players a chance. I agree 100% with that comment, CGM. I think he does need to start, and he did mention Robbie Fraser, and we'll get to that comment in a minute. RFC 72 says, Scott B, a bunch of kids, a free from Aberdeen, a 31-year-old replacement for a 31-year-old, and a loan on the right wing. That's the rebuild. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a rebuild, is it, RF72? It's taking a sticking plaster to a bone that's sticking out of a leg. I mean, that's what it really genuinely is. It is a poor excuse of a rebuild. Clement then spoke, obviously, about injuries, the injury situation. So, obviously, the big situation as regards injuries is what is going on with Ridvan Yilmaz. I mean, everyone wants to know what the situation is with Ridvan Yilmaz. I mean, that is the big one, isn't it? He went down injured. There is a lot of worry over Ridvan's Ridvan's ability to stay fit for a season. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I honestly think Ridvan is one of the best players at the club, but his ability to stay fit has to be called into question. Now, the manager stated in the presser today that Ridvan will be out, and he will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So he will miss 4 to 6 weeks of the season. That is bad news. I mean, that's nearly obviously 2 months out. In terms of that 4 to 6 weeks, that's going to put him as coming back. I mean, if we look a quick look at the calendar here, 4 to 6 weeks from, say, today is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first time he's going to be back is the 5th. Is that week? Is the 5th of October? I don't know who we play that week, but so you're missing him basically for the whole of the rest of August, whole of September. Will be out of the squad. Now, look, I love Ridvan. I think he's a top talent. But realistically, he's not going to be back. And even then, he's not going to be match fit. The first game that he's probably going to be available for is Rangers St Johnstone in the league on the 5th of October. That's the first game he's going to be back for. So he'll miss now the game on Saturday. He'll miss the Ross County game. He'll miss the Old Firm. He'll miss Dundee United away. He'll miss Hibs at home. Then realistically, the first games he's going to be back for is Rangers St Johnstone and Killie Rangers at Rugby Park. So he's going to be out for a very long time. And that's if it's a 6-week recovery, CGM. And that's if he is, back. Scott, no thanks. No thanks, mate. I'd rather do, but I wouldn't want to do that. I really wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't have John Lundstrom back for all the tea in China. CGF is not sure how the Sheep can sell Mihovsky for a reported 8 million, and we can't shift players like Hadji and Cantwell for 50 pence, regardless of their wages. True. I mean, I think the thing with that, CGM, is you've got to kind of start to question a little bit what's going on with the agents, what's going on with the club, how actively are they pushing these players, how actively are they trying to sell these players. I think they're questions that do need to be asked of the board and do need to be asked of of the players and their agents as well. What is going on in terms of trying to seek that move away from the club, which obviously that they want in the cases of Hadji and Cantwell. If they're so desperate to leave, if they're if they're so if they're so willing and wanting not to play for Rangers again, what are they doing to try and actively seek that move? They're the ones obviously who put in the transfer requests. They're the ones who, in the case of the agents, want their clients to move. So, I don't know. Ridvan might be back for us getting into Ibrox again, for fuck's sake. Scott, I think you're right. It could be October before we're back. Obviously, no news about the stadium or the steel in Phillipe Clement's presser. Don't know how we can go from a team that could compete in Europe 2 years ago to the mess now, says Ben. Bad decisions on the board, bad recruitment, bad managerial appointments. Ben, I think all of those things kind of answer that question. Surely Raskin must be close. How many weeks ago did we play Ajax? It feels like a lifetime ago, says CGM 55. Let's have a little look. We played Ajax on the 13th of July. 13th of July. So if you take that now as what, the 1 week, 2 weeks, 27, 20. I mean, yeah, he must be coming back, but it was 4 to 6 weeks, wasn't it? So, he is, hopefully starting to at least get back to some sort of training now. Obviously, he won't be ready to play competitively yet, but yeah, that's where we are. Obviously, Ridvan is out. I mean, that's, for me, is a big worry. Hefte is his backup, but, Hefte, I think he looks better at left wing than at left back. Also, I think as well, if you look at Hefte, his defensive skills do need some work, and we really can't afford to have two fullbacks who can't defend. So, for me, I would put Robbie Fraser there. I really would. I'd love to have Robbie Fraser there. I think Robbie Fraser is the best left back we've got after Ridvan. So for me, I'd love to see Robbie Fraser at left back on Saturday and going forward until Ridvan returns from injury. And look, at the end of the day, Clement made that commitment, didn't he, to actually give youth a chance. And if he's true about giving youth a chance, then play Robbie Fraser. Play Robbie Fraser. Okay, what else have we got? Alan Austin, fantastic contributor to the channel, says Todd put up his YouTube reel yesterday. Hopefully, once someone takes a bite next week, let's hope so. Ewan in the live chat says here, I'd rather take Jack back instead of Lundstrom. If that's what we have to do for the season, we will be lucky to finish top 6. This is the worst since the early 80s. JM, you're right about this. Anybody who watched the B team game against Clyde the other day, they did play so much better. The B team played better than our first team. That's brutal, correct. CGM says 4 to 6 weeks is the new 7 to 10 days standard injury return. Lol. If you haven't got a Glasgow Rangers Nation membership, get yourself one. Alexander's just gifted 5 Glasgow Rangers Nations membership. Thank you so much, Alexander. So get yourself one if you haven't got one yet. CE says the manager said there are no assets to buy. Now he has to show how good a manager he is with the current squad. You have faith in him doing that. I don't know, mate. Only time will tell, CF. Only time will tell on that one. Only time will tell. Ben, as I mentioned on the podcast this morning, for me, yes, I would love to see Hadji and Cantwell given a chance because we're still paying their wages. They're still part of the team. They're getting 25 grand, 24 grand a week, whatever it is, each. The only thing that kind of stops us, I think, from playing Hadji is the fact that we'd have to pay him 6 grand more a week if he gets that extra appearance. I think that could be putting us off playing him. But look, I would say that he cannot do any worse than Tom Lawrence is currently doing. Tom Lawrence is absolutely dreadful at the moment. Other injury news, Scott Wright has a small problem and will miss out on this weekend. So every cloud. And Balogun is also a doubt as well. So it's bad, obviously, that Leon is not fit enough to play. Obviously, continuing from that injury that he sustained against Motherwell. I mean, Big Leon is outside of Proper, is our best central defender. I think, obviously losing Big Leon, it is a big miss. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a big miss. He is a top player. He's physically strong. He's a good communicator. He's a leader. He tackles well. He blocks. He plays the ball out from the back. He carries it out from the back. He's a top centre half. And not having Leon available and not having Leon to play, I think it is a big loss. Although I did think that Souttar was excellent on Tuesday night against Kiev. So for me, big loss. Obviously, Leon been out. No big loss, of course. Scott Wright been out. Absolutely no loss. Scott Wright been out. Do you think both Tav and Lawrence will start tomorrow? Yes, I do. Scott, I don't want them to, but yes, I do. I think they will start tomorrow because we haven't got a lot of options there. Short-term fixes, 2 years of proc. Should we again look at Kenny McLean and Stuart Armstrong is free? 2 players for approximately 1.5 million. It's not ideal, but it's experienced Scottish players, says Darren. Darren, the issue, I suppose, is there that we may have to look at these players because at the end of the day, we haven't got any money to buy players. There's no money there anymore. So, look, I think there is a situation where, we may have to actually go out and start looking at some of these players on the cheap, and looking at the likes of McLean and Armstrong, for example. Obviously, we're linked with Brandon Williams, who's a freebie today. Who plays wide left tomorrow? I'd probably play Hefte just to help out Fraser defensively and show a bit of support after his red card. I mean, that's a good shout, CGM. I mean, like I've said to you, I'd love to see Robbie Fraser start at left back. I'm a massive Robbie Fraser fan. I think he did really well at the end of last season in the games that he played. I think he came on against Dundee, looked good. Started against Hearts, looked good. So for me, I would definitely give him a game. Ben says in the live chats, Ben comment coming up now, I think Sterling should play it right back eventually as Tav doesn't have the legs anymore. Ukraine team ran legs past him. It was embarrassing. I agree. Kabayev skinned him on a regular basis, Ben. So yeah, I agree with you on that one, buddy. 100%. Yeah, absolutely fantastic gesture from Alexander. Alan Austin says, I would rather see Phil bringing 2 in than Hadji and Cantwell. Shame there's zero interest in Lawrence. Agreed on that one about Lawrence. I mean, like I said, Hadji and Cantwell, I would give chance to play because we're paying their wages. I mean, Matt O'Reilly hasn't been dropped from Celtic. I know the situation is slightly different. O'Reilly hasn't asked for a transfer, but there's a likelihood he is going to be sold. His last comment on in the presser was, Robbie Fraser has made really good evolution. In the last couple of months, he has done positive things throughout the pre-season. Part of our story is to give chances to boys coming out of the academy. Now, you can only, kind of hope that is true, that is going to happen. That will be the situation, that we will give young lads a chance out of the academy. That's got to be said. Cole, thank you very much, Ewan. That's fantastic. Thank you, so generous, Ewan. Hopefully, we will see the likes of McKinnon and Rice and Lowry and Lovelace and players like that get an opportunity. NCO as well, Archie Stevens get an opportunity over this season because we've got to start looking to the youth. If it is that we can't afford anyone else and we're not going to sign anyone else, or we're not going to spend any big money on player, which we're probably not now, we're not in the Champions League. The youth are going to have to play a more important role this season. They're going to have to be part of the squad and they're going to have to play a part in the first team. And I honestly feel in Bailey Rice, in Cole McKinnon, in Archie Stevens, in Paul Ncio, in Finley Curtis, we've got some great players. So please, obviously, I think we've got to start seeing them, and hopefully Clement will be proved right with that comment, and he will, follow through on that comment with giving chances to the academy players. So hopefully, we'll start seeing Robbie Fraser in the team a little bit more, and some of the others. Thank you very much to D1 EMO, who's gifted 10 Glasgow Rangers Nations membership. If you haven't got one, get yourself one in there. CGM's team for tomorrow is Butland, Sterling, Souttar, Proper, Fraser, Barron, McKinnon, Diamande, Hefte, Cheney, and Dessers. That's a decent team, CGM 55, a good team. Scott, I don't think he will, mate. I genuinely don't think he will. Clement has played McCausland and he's shit. He's given everyone else a sniff of a chance. I mean, it has been only McCausland, hasn't it? That's Gustavo Puerta from Bayer Leverkusen. Would have been a marquee. 5 million. Looks like Brøndby will get him. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is, Alan, we haven't got £5 million. That's the big issue for me, is we have not got £5 million. So we can't spend the money we don't have. So at the end of the day, that's where we're up to with that one. I mean, yeah, Puerta would have been a good buy, Alan. I agree on that one. Thank you very much, Ewan. But I just, again, if we had 5 million, hopefully we were interested, but we didn't. We don't have 5 million. I don't think we've got two pennies to rub together, if I'm being wholly honest with you, buddy. I mean, John Souttar came out with a few comments as well in his presser today. He spoke to the media pre the manager. We'll get to that in a moment. But, look, I think, people have talked about, manager talking about transfers, the manager talking about this player in, that player out. But, we know from a fact that Phillipe Clement is not going to talk about that. He won't talk about other players being brought into the club. He won't talk about players leaving the club. He deflects that nicely. He always says that's somebody else's job. etc., etc. So for me, I think that is unrealistic. I think, the types of questions and answers we get in this presser are pretty much standard from now until the end of the window. We're not going to get a great deal out of anybody, going forward. That's just how it is. Alan says he was plan A. We are in plan C mode, mate. We're in plan Z, shopping bargain bin at B&M at the moment, mate. John Souttar, what he said, there is pressure in every game at Rangers. When you play here, you have to handle the pressure. I mean, that's obvious. We all know that, when it's not just Rangers. When you play for any massive club like Rangers, whether it's Rangers, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, there is pressure that comes with that, doesn't it? There is always pressure when you play for those clubs, and there's pressure when you play for us because the expectations are high from the fans. The expectations may not be high from the board, but they are from the fans to succeed, to win trophies. We know that. It's important as a group we react positively. Everyone bounces back as a group. Hopefully that starts at the weekend. Yeah, hopefully they can take something from that. The injustice of the red card, the way we lost that game, hopefully that will kind of push them on to want to do well and really want to kick on. And that's something we've got to see from the players on Saturday, isn't it? John Souttar also said, it's important to win no matter what stadium we are in. As players, our only focus is on winning football games. Obviously, being at Hampden is massively different to being at Ibrox. The crowds are dwindling at the Hampden. I think some of that is genuine apathy with the club at the moment and genuine anger with the club. And some of that is genuinely, a situation where people are pissed off with what's going on. And also, there's a lot of Rangers fans don't like Hampden. So, look, that's just where we're up to. And I think you'll see less than 20,000 there on Saturday. I think you really will. I think it'll be embarrassing. The same way it was embarrassing we couldn't sell out for a Champions League return tie that had everything riding on it. But I think there's genuinely a sense of being really fed up of it all at the club at this moment in time. CGM says here, in positive news, the stadium does look like it's coming on a bit. Yeah, that's positive. The stadium does look like it's developing. Hopefully we'll be back in sooner rather than later. I'd much rather be at Ibrox than Hampden. I think that would have had a massive effect had we played at Ibrox on Tuesday night. D1 says, there's plenty of quality Brosmans and with loan we could utilise for now or minimal cost. Yeah, there is obviously loans. There is obviously a situation where you've got Brosmans. But the problem I think there is, D1 EMO, you've got a situation where you have got to... obviously pay signing on fees. You've got wages to pay. You may have loan fees to pay. So there is money still to spend on these things. And in how much money have we got? How much space have we got on the wage bill at this moment in time? And if we are bringing players in, I think it's clear we need to move players on. That's been kind of made clear to us. So yeah, I agree. There are Bosmans, there are loans to be had, but we've got to move players on first. And if it's been a rebuild, you should be rebuilding by buying players and bringing players in who are your players. Loan players are here for a season. Then on the whole, they're gone, especially if you're borrowing players from the Premier League. There is protest outside Hampden on Saturday. Dado says we need 5 loan players in. So we do need loan players in. We do need to bring... Shut up. We do need loan players in. We need any sort of players in. We need to develop the squad. Definitely we do. 100% we do. We ain't signing anyone, says Scott. Look, I think, coming out of this press conference today, it's the same stuff. There's nothing as regards, obviously, team news, as regards, obviously, Ridvan's out for 4 to 6 weeks, as it says on the screen. Obviously, no Scott Wright, no Balogun tomorrow. We'll obviously have to wait to see what the team is when it is finally revealed tomorrow. But that's pretty much what Big Phil said. At the end of the day, look, see, because I'm a Rangers fan, I don't like Celtic. And no, I have not physically been in a fight because I try not to get into fights because that's ridiculous. CGM55 says, I'm a total hypocrite because I moan I can never get tickets for decent games because I don't have my jersey, but I won't buy tickets for tomorrow because it's at Hampden. That's fair enough, CGM. We all have our right to not. And I think at the moment there's a genuine sense amongst the fans. They don't want to give money out to the board at the moment. They don't want to pay money into the club because of the fact they feel they've been taken for granted by the club. The wage budget has dropped by 200k a week. It will have done, I suppose, with the players have gone out, Dado. You know, obviously the likes of Lundstrom and Barisic and Goldson, and obviously who've left the club, who would have been on big wages. Okay, guys, thank you for your support this afternoon. Obviously, this impromptu live. Obviously, well done again to DL2, who has been a member for 7 months. Thank you so much to Alexander, who gifted 5 memberships. Thank you to Ewan for the super sticker. £5 super sticker, fantastic. And thank you so much to D1 EMO, who gifted 10 memberships. Hopefully you got yourself a membership if you're not a member of the channel. Please obviously remember to renew it when it runs out. RRM says here in the live chat, we don't want to be getting free players in, as we will get scalped on wages. We will be stuck with them. And that's the big thing, RRM, isn't it? I mean, Brandon Williams has been talked about, hasn't it? And I think there was obviously, you know, I mentioned Tapia and Tom Hay the other day, and even players who are out of contract, some of them will demand massive wages, and we've got to be really careful on that aspect. We don't want to be stuck with a 31, 32-year-old paying them 28, 30 grand a week. So yeah, you do have to be careful. I think, you know, with the finances the way they are at the moment, and what Clement said, perhaps we just need to deal with what we've got and try and get the best out of what we've got, and then see how good a coach Phillipe Clement truly is. Well, thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, please obviously keep your eyes open, your ears to the ground for any videos. Best way to make sure you don't miss out, smash the sub. Thank you for watching. On the way out, do me 2 favors, guys, please. Smash the like, beats the algorithm. And number 2, remember always, we are the people.